Good morning, one and all. This is a special session on the last lecture in the first module. There is lecture number 12. So we'll see two topics here. One is multi-channel carrier sense multiple access, and another is power control MAC. So they are actually called special MAC protocols. So last day we have seen the MAC protocol different types, that is contention based MAC. So first we had seen CSMA, there is carrier sense multiple access. Then we have seen MACA, then improvement of MACA in MACA-W. After that, what we found was the contention based MAC is not offering quality of service. Hence, we had to do contention based MAC with some reservation mechanism. So there we had seen three protocols. That is, first we had seen what is GPRMA protocol, then we had seen what is CATA protocol, finally we had seen HRMA protocol. So important questions in which reservation is you are supposed to remember the frame structure of DPRMA, CATA and HRMA protocols. So that was done till the last day in the first 11 lectures. So we have completed almost 90% of the syllabus. Now, these are the two topics which are called special MAC protocols. So there are many special MAC protocols. Among them, as per your syllabus, these two topics are there. So first topic is multi-channel CSMA. So we have seen CSMA, that is carrier sense multiple access. What happens is the sender first senses in its vicinity if there is any communication going on. How it senses if communication going on? The sender nodes senses if there is any carrier frequency present near to it or not. If carrier frequency is present means some communication is going on. That means there is some other sender, there is some other receiver. They are using the channels and communication is going on between some other transmitter and receiver. So if there is any communication going on, that means carrier is present, carrier frequency is present, then the sender would not send his data packet to the communication channel. Okay, so that is called carrier sense. And there are certain things, one is called as a single channel, one is called as multi-channel. So many sender, many receiver kind of a scenario is here in case of multi-channel. So if this kind of scenario is there, that many sender, many receivers are there, then how does the CSMA is executed? That is actually explained in CSMA multi-channel type of ad hoc sensor network based MAC protocol. Second one is power control MAC. So there is an algorithm which is called BASIC, BASIC. So this basic algorithm we will explain first and then see what is the shortcoming in that basic algorithm, and that can be solved using power control MAC. Power control MAC in short is called as PCM. Okay. So MCSMA, that is multi-channel CSMA, and PCM, these are the two algorithms we are going to discuss in today's lecture. First, let us see what is multi-channel CSMA. It is called as MCSMA. Here it is said that the available bandwidth is divided into several channels. So if there are many senders, many receivers, so if there are capital N number of channels, that means capital N number of sender wants to transmit to many receivers. So in that case, the overall allocated bandwidth, capital W, is divided among all the N channels. So in that case, each channel is allotted bandwidth of W by N. That is called as fair allocation of bandwidth to all channels. So who does that? That is actually done by MACA. So a node that wants to transmit packet selects any one of those channels randomly. This protocol uses the notion of soft channel reservation. A very important question in short question, what is meant by soft channel reservation? The answer is where preference is given to the channel that was used for previous successful transmission. That means one sender was using one certain path to send the data to one receiver. Now his data transmission is over. Now it is waiting for certain times, and after certain time, lot of other sense data is accumulated in that sensor. Again, that sender is trying to send the data to the same kind of receiver. So before sending the data to the receiver, first it has to check for carrier sense, if there is any carrier present around to it or not. So the sender finds that there is no carrier present, that means it can transmit its data to the receiver. So there are many paths through which the sender can send the data. Which one path will it select? that is actually decided by soft channel reservation. So the easiest answer is whichever channel it had used previously for previous transmission from the same source to the same destination, that channel will be given highest preference for current data transmission. So this is actually a protocol which is called as soft channel reservation. Now, soft channel reservation will be used in case of CSMA data transmission. Now, this CSMA is using transmission which is kind of frequency division multiple access, or this is called FDMA. This is used in cellular network also, but the FDMA used in ad hoc and the FDMA used in cellular network, it is different. So whatever CSMA we are talking about, it is from the point of view of ad hoc network. So whatever FDMA is used in case of ad hoc network, that is having two major difference compared to the FDMA used in cellular network. First difference is, in case of FDMA used in ad hoc, there is no centralized infrastructure. That means there is no base station available. We have seen in the first chapter towards the initial part that ad hoc is always an infrastructure less communication topology. So there is no centralized control. So it is like a college without a principal. Okay, so each of the sensor in a distributed manner, they control the data transmission and data reception among each other. So that is the first thing. The FDMA is actually not controlled from a centralized point. Okay, so the FDMA is controlled in a distributed manner. That is the first difference. Second difference is channel assignment is done in a distributed manner using carrier sensing as discussed earlier. So carrier sensing and FDMA based control, both are actually controlled in a distributed manner, because this is about ad hoc. This is ad hoc multi-channel CSMA and there is no centralized control used here. So first we are actually going through what are the features of multi-channel CSMA for ad hoc. If there are n independent senders or hosts, so it can be called as sender, it can be called as transmitter. Now a new name we have found is host. So if there are n hosts, capital N hosts within network, the total bandwidth W is divided into n overlapping channels. Now each host channel has bandwidth of W by n. Total number of communication, total channel bandwidth is equal to capital W. So I have told this to you that MAC always check for fair allocation and equal amount of allocation of bandwidth through all the communication channels. So if there are capital n communication channels, if total bandwidth available is capital W, then each channel will be allotted bandwidth of W by n. So channels may be created using FDMA or CDMA. So this MCSMA actually uses, it does not use TDMA, it doesn't use time division multiple access, it uses either frequency division multiple access, that is FDMA, or code division multiple access, that is CDMA. Okay, so TDMA cannot be used as TDMA does not have the global time synchronization facility. That means each node, each sender node should have a time synchronization with all the other sender, all the other receiver, all the other intermediate routing nodes and all. So overall network should be having a total time synchronization. That is possible in FDMA and CDMA, but that is not possible in TDMA. Hence, MCSMA channels, they use FDMA or CDMA, but they don't use TDMA. So with all these features, this protocol gives a good quality of service as channels are reserved for nodes. So CSMA, multi-channel CSMA is kind of a MAC protocol with reservation mechanism. So what you are reserving here is bandwidth. So overall bandwidth W is divided by n. N is the number of channel. So each channel is given a specialized reserved bandwidth of W by n. And whenever there is a specialized reserved bandwidth, there is quality of service. So MCSMA provides quality of service. It can be used for voice transmission or voice signal transmission. Let us see what is meant by carrier sensing. So we have already told you carrier sensing. Let us dive a little bit deep into it. What is meant by carrier sensing and how carrier sensing is done. So there are two important definitions here. One is TRSS. It is called as total received signal strength. And what is TRSS? So TRSS is a signal, so TRSS of a signal is calculated by the sum of contribution arising from various multipath components of a signal. So if there is a sender node and just beside there is a link, at that link the sender senses if there is any carrier. So that is called as carrier sensing. Carrier sensing is actually done by sensing the TRSS. So at that link, what is the total received signal strength by all other communications? So whenever a node is trying to send signal to the receiver, sender node is trying to send the signal to the receiver, it has to send some carrier frequency. Inside the carrier frequency, there is the data. So whenever it is sending some carrier frequency, that carrier frequency will be sensed by that link. In that link, it can be sensed. So in any link, any sender node tries to find how much is the TRSS. So what is the total received signal strength of a signal at any path. Okay, so first TRSS is sensed by a sender on a single link. So what is the carrier sensing procedure? So an idle node means it is not transmitting now. Okay, it is having a lot of data packet and it wants to transmit to maybe through many channels. It wants to transmit to a receiver. Okay, so an idle node does not transmit packets. Such a node continuously monitors all n channels. That means one sender node is there, it wants to transmit the data to the receiver maybe by means of capital N channels. So this is kind of a multi-channel kind of a transmission. Okay, so initially it is not transmitting, it is just sensing all the N channels if there is any carrier present or not. So TRSS sensing is being done by that sender node in all channels. If TRSS of a channel is less than the sensing threshold, so there are two new terms you are learning here. One is TRSS, what is the total received signal strength over a channel sensed by a sensor, and there is something called a sensing threshold. So sensing threshold is also a power, TRSS is also a power, and if TRSS is less than sensing threshold, so sensing threshold, if the TRSS is more than sensing threshold means that channel is occupied. So in that case, that sender node is not going to put its data on the channel. But if TRSS is less than sensing threshold, so sensing threshold is a power which is decided by the designer for any channel. So let's say sensing threshold I'm saying is 5 milliwatt. So TRSS if greater than 5 milliwatt means that channel is already communicating data. So in that case, the sender node is not going to put its data on that particular channel. But if sensing threshold is 5 milliwatt and the sender senses that in that channel TRSS is 2 milliwatt, that means that channel is free. And in that case, the sender node is going to send his data through that particular channel. So what is the condition for data transmission? Condition for data transmission is TRSS value at any channel sensed by the sender should be less than the sensing threshold. So if TRSS of a channel is less than the sensing threshold of the node, then the node marks that channel as a idle channel. So first the node is idle, it is not transmitting any data. Then it senses the carrier. So what is the carrier sensing process? The TRSS is sensed and the node checks if TRSS is greater than sensing threshold or less than sensing threshold. If TRSS is less than sensing threshold means that channel is free. In that case only the node is going to mark that particular channel as idle channel. That means it is preparing for data transmission. Next, the time is noted for idle channel when the TRSS of the channel actually fell less below the sensing threshold. So it is not only the power, but it senses what is the time when the TRSS value fell less than the sensing threshold. Okay, so the amount of power and the time when the power fell less than the sensing threshold, both are marked at the sender node level. So it is saying that the time is noted for each idle channel when the TRSS of the channel fell actually below the sensing threshold. Such channels are marked as free channels in the total list. So there is a big list in the whole network topology that which are the free channels, which are the occupied channels. So exactly at any time, if TRSS is falling below the sensing threshold, exactly at that point the list will be appended that means that channel will be marked as a free channel. So that is a very important thing. So time is noted for each idle channel when TRSS of the channel is falling below ST. That is the sensing threshold. Such channels are marked as free channel in the total list. When an idle channel receives a packet for transmission, so what is the idle channel? The channel for which the TRSS is less than sensing threshold, that is the idle channel. So when an idle channel receives a packet for transmission, it first checks the free channel list. If free channel list is empty, means all the channels are busy now. So a sender wants to send a data. First it will check which are the free channels. If there in the table there is no free channel, so how is the table created? Because the overall network topology is having a global understanding of the whole topology. That means if there are 15 or 20 different channels, all the channels are occupied, how many are free, that list is continuously appended. So as soon as an idle node get a data, it wants to send the data to the receiver through a free channel. So first it checks the table that which channels are free channels. It does not find any free channel, that means the data cannot be transmitted now. That means the free channel list is empty. Means what? There is no free channel, that means all channels are busy now. So what that node has to do? That node has to then back off. Okay, so there is a back off algorithm we have seen. That node has to wait for a certain time. Okay, and here also the back off thing happens. So what is that? So after finding an idle channel, suppose now it has found the idle channel. So the idle channel list is not empty. Okay, so the node has found, the sending node has found as an idle channel. But as soon as it finds the idle channel, the node immediately does not send data over it. Okay, so there is a process in between it. So what is the first step? Sensing TRSS, comparing it with ST. So TRSS is less than ST, that means channel is free. TRSS is greater than ST, channel is not free. Okay. When it is finding that TRSS is less than ST, that is sensing threshold, then immediately the sending node does not send the data through the channel. There is a small process in between. So after sensing that the channel is free, the node waits, the sending node waits for an additional time. So the additional time is actually the accumulation of LIFS time and back off time. What is LIFS? It is called long interframe space. So first TRSS is less than ST. Now channel is free. Sender node wants to send data, but immediately it does not send data. It waits for a time which is called as LIFS time. It's a very small thing, maybe in milliseconds or so. Okay, so LIFS is long interframe space. What is the significance of LIFS? It is a time when the channel double checks, or the sender double checks if the channel is really free or not. Okay, so if channel remains idle even after the LIFS and back off time, then the node starts transmitting packet on the channel. So first TRSS is sensed by the sender node, then TRSS value is compared with the ST, that is the sensing threshold. TRSS value is found to be less than ST. The node understands that channel is free. Then channel waits for additional time of LIFS plus back off time. So LIFS is a long interframe space. It is a defined time for any channel or any network. And after that also there is a back off time. Why back off time? We will see later on. Okay. So if after LIFS time, after back off time, the TRSS is still less than ST, that means the node understands that yes, the channel is really free. Okay. Then the node starts transmitting packet on this channel. So this is what happens in case of carrier sensing and data transmission. What is the significance of soft channel reservation? So we have seen previously what is meant by soft channel reservation. While selecting idle channel from the list, the sender node uses soft channel reservation algorithm. The sender node notes the ID of that channel over which it has made most recent successful packet transmission. So what is meant by packet transmission? Initially, the data is transmitted, and then after receiving the data, the receiver sends an acknowledgement signal back to the sender node. So till the acknowledged signal is not received at the sender node, sent by the receiver, data transmission is not complete. So what is meant by successful packet transmission? It is till the end of the ACK received at the sender node. So what is meant by soft channel reservation? Here the sender wants to send the information from the sender to the receiver, and by soft channel reservation it tends to select the same path through which it had transmitted the most recent successful it has completed the most recent successful data completion or transmission. Okay, so this channel is given the highest preference during selection of new channel for next transmission. So what is meant by soft channel reservation is selecting the same channel through which it has done the most successful recent data transmission. So that is given the highest priority. That is called as soft channel reservation. Okay. So what is next? Before the actual packet transmission, the TRSS of the chosen channel is checked by the node. Same thing, if channel TRSS value remains less, even for LIFS period of time, then the node waits for back of time period. So LIFS and back off both are kind of a time cushion. Okay, so it waits for LIFS time, let's say 5 millisecond, then there is back of time, another 3 millisecond. So after that 5 millisecond plus 3 millisecond, after this 8 milliseconds also, if TRSS is less than ST, then the node would transmit. But what happens if suddenly during LIFS period, during that 5 millisecond, the TRSS value becomes greater than the ST value? So when the LIFS time started, TRSS was less than ST. The LIFS is 5 millisecond time. So during this LIFS time, suddenly what the node experiences is the TRSS value has become greater than the ST value. That means suddenly from somewhere there has come some carrier on that channel. Exactly at that time comes the importance of back of time. So as soon as during LIFS period, suddenly there comes some carrier in the link, at that time the back of time is triggered, and initially back of time was 3 milliseconds. Now as soon as during LIFS a new TRSS is sensed which is greater than ST, suddenly the back of time will become more. Okay, in BEP algorithm we have seen that the back of time becomes double after every waiting, the back of time becomes double. So initially LIFS was 5 millisecond, back of time was 3 milliseconds. So initially TRSS was less than ST. LIFS period started because the sender nodes is trying to send the data. After this 5 plus 3 8 millisecond, the sender node would send the data. But in LIFS, during 5 millisecond, it is found that TRSS becomes greater than ST. What will happen is this back of time will become from 3 millisecond, it will become 6 millisecond. Okay, again after that 6 millisecond, again carrier sensing would happen. Again carrier sensing, if finds that TRSS is less than ST, then again LIFS period would start. So after that 6 millisecond back of time, again if found TRSS is greater than ST, then again back of time will become double. So from 3 it became 6, now from 6 it will become 12 millisecond, and you keep on going. Okay, so this is the significance of back of time. So during LIFS period, if TRSS becomes higher than ST, just check, this is what I have explained now. So during LIFS period, so LIFS is 5 millisecond, back of time is 3 millisecond. Just arbitrary example I am giving. So in exam also you can write like this. So during LIFS period, if TRSS becomes higher than ST, then sender node thinks of not transmitting the data over it. Because at the starting of LIFS, channel was free. But during LIFS, suddenly from somewhere some signal comes over that channel. So that's why the sender thinks of not transmitting the data over that channel. And it randomly access a back of delay time after LIS period. That means after that 3 millisecond, sorry, after that 5 millisecond of LIFS, 3 millisecond of back of time will be initiated. And after that again the carrier sensing happens. If TRSS is found greater than ST till now, the back of time will become double. So previously it was 3 millisecond, now it will become 6 millisecond if it is following BEP algorithm. So during back off period, the same thing is explained. During back off period, if the TRSS value is still higher than ST, then the current back off delay period is cancelled and a new access back off delay time is scheduled, expecting the TRSS might go low compared to ST. That is what I am saying. During back off period, if TRSS value is still higher, Okay, that means first LIFS period, TRS's value was less than ST. But during the back of time, suddenly it is found that TRS's value has become greater than the ST value. That means LIFS period also was not having any new communication, but during back of time, suddenly some new carrier has come. So what will happen? Previous 3 millisecond will be cancelled. Now a new random access backup delay time will be scheduled, which will be obviously greater than the previous backup delay time. So this LIFS, this backup delay time, they are actually the time cushions who are double checking or who are double ensuring that yes, there should not be any collision between the current flow of communication and the communication which is going to start in the near future. So when number of channels n is sufficiently large, each sender node tends to reserve a channel for itself. Because whenever number of sender is very large, at that time the bandwidth will be shared by that large number of sender nodes. In that case, bandwidth will be very stringent, so very less amount of bandwidth will be allocated to every channel. In that case, every channel, every link from the transmitter to the receiver, okay, every path would like to fixed bandwidth. So obviously it will be given by W by capital N, but capital N has become sufficiently large, so W by N will become small. So whenever the number of channel N is sufficiently large, each sender node tends to reserve a channel for itself. Each sender now prefers to use the same channel which was used before for successful transmission, which is called as soft channel reservation. Probability of two senders contending or fighting for transmit over same channel is very less. That means in this case CSMA or MCSMA, multi-channel CSMA. So MCSMA is nothing different. It is the same CSMA, but whenever it is done for many channels, it is called as multi-channel CSMA. So probability of two senders fighting for a same channel for data transmission is very less. That means nodes here dynamically select the channels for transmission in a mutually exclusive manner for parallel and interference free transmission. So it's a distributed kind of control, and here all the nodes talk to each other, so there is a global kind of data exchange is there. So every node knows what the other node is doing, every path, every channel knows what is happening through the other path or other channel. Hence, the amount of collision is very less, and nodes are dynamically selecting all the channels and transmission in a mutually exclusive manner. What is meant by mutually exclusive? When one channel is transmitting data by some sender receiver, the other sender receiver are not going to access that channel. Okay, so if there are multi-path kind of a thing from the sender and receiver, it would try to select a different path to transmit its own data, and whatever is going on continuously for time being, that channel will be spared, that channel will not be disturbed. That is called as mutually exclusive. So even if there is a very high traffic load, that means huge amount of data is to be transmitted from the transmitter and receiver. Huge amount of data is to be transmitted from the transmitter to the receiver. In that case, what's happening? There also the collision is not happening. So number of channels over which the total bandwidth is split, WIN, is most important parameter. If number of channels n is capital N is very large, in that case the protocol results in very high packet transmission time. That means if the number of channels is very large, that means number of sender is very high. In that case, number of channels are very large. In that case, bandwidth will be less, but in that case, amount of sender nodes will be very high. Amount of packet transmission will be very high. Okay. So this is actually what is called as MCSMA. So I'll just give you a recap. What is MCSMA? So it is same as CSMA. But what new things you have learned in this case? First one is what is meant by soft channel reservation. So soft channel reservation is selecting the same channel over which the node or sender node transmitted data successfully previous time. So that is the first definition. So what is CSMA? That is the first definition. Second is what is soft channel reservation. That is the second definition, new thing. Third thing, what is FDMA, frequency division multiple access? So every channel is using a different frequency for data transmission. Hence, the amount of data getting entangled, one channel data, another channel data getting entangled, and data is lost. That thing would not happen. Okay, so that is FDMA. So what are the major differences between FDMA of cellular and FDMA of ad hoc? Because this is multi-channel CSMA, we are talking about FDMA in ad hoc. So what is the main difference? In case of ad hoc, the FDMA is not using any infrastructure. That means there is no centralized control, and all the control is being done in a distributed fashion. So that is the basic difference between cellular control and ad hoc control. So that difference we have to explain. How is the bandwidth divided? W by N. So if there are total capital N number of channels, overall bandwidth W is getting divided W by N. So if number of channels are very large, that means every channel is going to get very small bandwidth. So when it happens that W by N, when N is very large, huge amount of data is transmitted continuously over all the channels. So channel may be created in case of multi-channel CSMA by FDMA or CDMA. It cannot happen by TDMA because TDMA does not have a global synchronization. So this protocol provides a good quality of service. That means this can be used for voice transmission. So TRSS is something, TRSS is a parameter which is telling about how much is the signal strength in the near links. Okay, so the TRSS has to be less than the sensing threshold. If TRSS is less than sensing threshold, then only the communication can happen over that channel. And it is not only TRSS less than ST. When TRSS is less than ST, then also the sender node waits for a certain time. What is that overall waiting time? It is LIFS plus backup time. LIFS is long interframe space. So during LIFS, if suddenly the carrier is sensed near to the node, what happens? The sender node goes back for backup time, and that backup time keeps on piling up. If carrier is sensed or TRSS becomes greater than ST, the backup time keep on increasing. Finally, there is the last thing, that is probability of two sender contending. So this green thing is actually the main highlight of CSMA. That is the main feature of CSMA. There is probability of two senders contending to transmit over the same channel is very less. That means collision of data in case of multi-channel CSMA is very less. So nodes are dynamically selecting the channels for transmission of a mutually exclusive manner for parallel and interference-free transmission. So this is all about the MCSMA MAC protocol features. So it can be asked for a 5 to 8 marks questions. All these features you can explain. So explain what is soft channel reservation, what is TRSS, what is ST, what is FDMA, what is CDMA, and all these things. Okay, so that's all. Next, what we are going to see is a power control map or PCM for ad hoc wireless sensor network. Okay, so what we find in PCM, that is ad hoc wireless sensor network, is mainly the saving of power, and there is one protocol. First, there is a basic protocol. So first we will explain basic protocol, and the same basic protocol is having some kind of drawbacks, and that how that drawback can be overcome in PCM protocol. That would be our topic of discussion next.